Today, we're talking about money and specifically investing our money as entrepreneurs. Before I get into this, nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I am going to give you some different ways of thinking that you might choose to ponder and do whatever you want with. Okay? Now, this is something that I really wish I understood a lot earlier in my journey, and it's a core message that I've got to get across to the individuals that I work with that are making massive leaps, and for the individuals that are about to earn a lot of money or are earning a lot of money in their business. Again, as with all my videos, this applies to 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs. Doesn't matter where you're at within your journey. So, what I want to look at. Entrepreneurs' money. It moves differently in my experience. So when we look at money, we've sort of got two core ways that most people will look at investing their money. And the first is simply into their cash. So they'll get their cash and they'll save it into a bank. And then they'll open up their phone and they'll open up an app and they'll see that they have stashed X amount of dollars into their bank. And they'll place meaning around the amount of money that they have in this bank. And based on the amount of money that they have in the bank, they'll create narratives and stories and either disappointment or gratitude or whatever it might be around what's displayed on the screen of a phone. That's one level of money. That's one level of currency. And in my opinion, it is the weakest form of currency. The second level is you have assets. So you grab this money that you've got on your computer screen and you invest it into your assets. You take it out of your business and you invest it into your assets. That could be property, that could be cryptocurrency, or you might even have shares or whatever it might be. The standard assets. Okay? Now, I'm not against anything on here. In fact, I own property, I own shares, I own cryptocurrency. However, what I am against is getting caught in an illusion and in a game that doesn't actually make sense for you. So let's continue with this. So let's say, for example, you've got your $50,000 in your balance and you invest your $50,000 into your property and then you've got not much money left or whatever it might be, and you invest some money in a Bitcoin, you invest some money in a crypto, and you average things out and you receive, let's say, 10% per annum on your increases, right? So what starts to happen is you start to see this beautiful graph where, you're starting to get the holy grail, which is compounding interest. There's nothing wrong with this model. In fact, if someone's got a salary of 50 to 200K per year, then it probably makes sense for them to follow that model. That's probably the model that makes most sense for them. They know that they've not really got a massive variance in how much they're going to get paid. If they're getting paid 100 grand this year, they'll be lucky if they're getting paid 120 the next. There's not much wriggle room for them to triple their income, for example. Very unlikely that you're going to have a salary job of 100 grand a year and next year you're going to earn 400 grand a year. It's very unlikely. Okay? But with entrepreneurs, it's different. It's totally fucking different. And you may have already felt this for some time, and this video may be nothing more than a beautiful reminder and a permission piece for you to continue to see things the way that you've seen it. But the funny thing with entrepreneurs is that you absolutely have the potential to turn a $100,000 business into $1 million business, into a $10 million business, into a $20 million business, for example. You absolutely have the potential to do that. So if you're earning, let's say, for example, 100 grand a year, and you're taking out 80 grand of that 100 grand a year and you're using it through your personal life and you're getting ahead because you're saving 30 grand a year or whatever it is, and you're putting this 30 grand into your property, you're putting it into your Bitcoin, you're putting it into your shares, whatever, you then have this belief that you're getting ahead. And let's not even talk about inflation. Let's not even talk about the state of the world. Let's not even talk about people attempting to make all money digital and get rid of cash and what that could do and the economy and all of these things. Let's imagine we don't even have to go into the shit storm that is the economic state of this world. Let's just imagine that for a utopian moment, okay? Even if we imagine that, there's an asset that's so much more profitable for you to invest in, and that is you. That is your self and everything that exists within yourself. Now, a lot of people understand this at simple levels. They understand that if they invest in learning a skill, they go to university, that was an investment into self. I've got my certificate, I understand it now. They understand that if they invest in books, that's an investment into self. But a lot of people don't look at themselves as the asset. And they don't look at the asset and ask themselves, like they may with their property or their share portfolio or their cryptocurrency, they don't ask themselves what the worth of that asset is. They don't look at it. They don't do many things to nourish the asset. They don't do many things to maintain the production value of the asset. They might look after themselves, okay? They might train, they might eat well, they might do a bit of meditation, etc. But they're not turning this asset into a completely different machine. A story comes to mind for me, for example. We have a company and they come into us and they're earning we'll say around 1.5 million a year at this point in time, okay? They're earning about 1.5 million, but they've got a beautiful trajectory to head into 3 million. Now, these two founders are in a position where they're grinding with each other massively. They can feel, they have the acuity and the self-awareness to recognize that the dynamic that they've got is starting to cause issues. And there's some resentment held towards each other. There's some problems within each other, etc., etc. So this exists in the mind and in the self and in the heart and in the soul and in the body of the founder. So these guys are earning this money and you could be mistaken to go, okay, let's pull these millions of dollars out, get it into property, get some exponential growth, yada, yada, yada. But the funny thing is that these individuals, if they don't work on themselves as the asset, well, they're gonna split the business up. And if we look out now, I worked with them a couple of years ago, and we look at them now, and they're doing tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars a year. Well, that work that we did together, where I put them in an Airbnb for a week together and I fucking dissected the very core of their being and went through the entire relational dynamic that they had and spat them out as completely different humans, completely different assets. Well, how much was that worth for them? Well, the fact that they're still together, the company's still operating, they made it through the AI revolution, etc., etc. You could argue that that was worth about $50, $100, $150 million. $150 million. Now you tell me where you're going to, within the space of 2 years, invest in an asset that's going to turn into $150 million. It's extraordinarily unlikely. Now that's one example of people that were already earning good cash in the first place. Let's just pick another example. Let's pick an example of a client that comes to me, and this happens regularly. They come to me and they're just getting momentum. They're sort of just paying bills and getting by in their business. They're doing 5 to 10 grand a month in their business, right? They invest, let's say, over the course of the year, they invest 50 grand into me. Shock horror. 50 grand? That's a fucking house deposit. You could have had that in shares. You could have had that in crypto and turned it into 150. Well, this individual that's done this, that's invested into this work, has literally gone on to normalize 50 grand a month in their business. 50 grand a month in 3 months. They've made more than they could make anywhere else in any investment, anywhere whatsoever. This is the new realization for entrepreneurs, that through exiting the traditional systems and through going through the processes that allow us to release our conditioning and all of the bullshit that we've collated in our mind from parents, from teachers, from society at whole, when we can allow ourselves to release all of that and invest in ourselves as the asset, we end up creating an asset that can make more money than any other system that's here. So for me personally, I'm at the phase now where I've absolutely invested over $500,000 into myself. And when I say myself, I'm not just talking business mentors. I'm talking any form of work where I needed to really elevate the essence of who I was. When I look at myself as the asset, I know that I've invested that much into the asset. That's not what the asset's worth though. That's just the fucking down payment. The asset's worth 10, 20, 30 times more than that. Because the asset can now generate that money like a rhythmic machine. So I've had times throughout my journey where I've wondered and I've looked at this bank account. These digits that are displayed on a phone. Is that so? I'm looking at what I'm being told that I am. Interesting. I'm seeing these digits on a phone and I'm believing that that's who I am. Okay? Now, sometimes you look at those digits and they look fucking unreal. But if you're really actually playing the entrepreneurial journey and you haven't figured it out already, you're going to have times where you're going to look at those digits and they're going to look like shit. They're going to look like absolute horse shit. And if you're really investing into yourself, then the chances are you probably haven't focused on putting as much money into traditional assets such as property, cryptocurrency, shares as someone who's earning $100,000 a year on a salary job because they don't have anywhere else to put their money, right? You've got this beautiful asset that you can place your money into. And of course, someone earning a salary job can invest in themselves. They can grow their skill set. However, I'm sure you're starting to understand the gist here, and that is the fact that we can compound, as entrepreneurs, we can compound our investments to create real monetary value at rates that most cannot even comprehend. Again, what is it worth to you to actually finally figure out that the reason that you're not moving forward in business is because you're actually being scared of losing all of your clients, and that traces back to an abandonment wound that hasn't been healed properly? Well, what's it worth to heal that wound? Not only at a monetary value, because we start to become very empty if that's the only lens we see things through, also through a personal fulfillment lens. But even if we just used money as a very calculatable metric, we would see that clearing that abandonment wound now allows us to leap to the next level, to have the next level of clients that we call in, to end up earning an extra $100,000 or $500,000 this year. The value in the asset is absolutely insane. And again, I do want to make this call. Entrepreneurs who are playing the game, deeply connected to their soul and deeply connected to the truth that's pulsing through them in any given moment. Not getting caught up in the noise. Not getting caught up in the, this is how you have to live bullshit. Those that are beyond the matrix. Those that are seeking true sovereignty. These individuals are probably going to have moments where they tear it all down. They tear it all down and they start again. I've had those moments. A lot of clients have had those moments where they've got to the point where they've got to rebuild. They've got to rebuild everything. It's fucking terrifying. And what ends up happening is they rebuild everything, and this asset here, their bank balance turns to near zero. And since they've only been investing in themselves and their business, they don't really have fuck all in assets, or maybe they've even had to sell some assets to support them as they're going through their breakthrough. And now, if they discount the greatest asset of all, and they just look around at their assets, they look at the illusion of their phone, they look at the physical assets that they've got around them or whatever it might be, it can be very easy for these individuals to mistakenly believe that they've now got nothing and that they're now worth nothing. But the funny thing is, maybe you needed to hear this today, it's just a gentle reminder. You have always got an asset. And you know what the best part about that asset is? No one can take it from you. There's nothing that can occur within this lifetime that's going to take that from you. The essence of who you are, yourself as the asset. This is true sovereignty. What happens if we put all of our money, all of our energy, all of our everything into property, shares, Bitcoin, and bank accounts, and we wake up one day and the whole fucking power's gone out. We've been hit by an EMP and it's fucking World War III. What happens if the entire economic structure just absolutely falls to pieces? Well, you're in a beautiful position because you've got an asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Everybody else placed the power in everything else. So again, if you're in a position where maybe you're finding that you're playing this rat race a little bit too hard, or you're playing this rat race a little bit too hard and it doesn't actually feel right for you, maybe it's because it's not. And if you are playing this rat race really hard and you're having doubts come up at times and you're looking at this as if it's a reflection of who you are, well, again, just a gentle reminder, it's not. Thanks for tuning in. If this has been helpful, give us a like, give us a subscribe, do the things. Check out the link down below in the description. It's going to have a few different ways that you can come deeper with us on this journey of sovereignty and entrepreneurship built from the right place. See you on the next one.